Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is the Bodega Cat Book Club Health Edition. And today we're continuing our reading of Vibrational Medicine by Dr. Richard Gerber, MD, medical doctor. So this is the third edition that we're using. If you guys have a book that you want to use to follow with us. So this particular book was inspired by a quote from a famous scientist called Nikola Tesla. If you haven't heard of him, I encourage you guys to check him out on YouTube or many books about him. There are a lot of books written about him. So his quote was or is his quote is, and I'm paraphrasing, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to or if you want to know the secrets of the universe, you have to understand vibration, frequency, and energy. So I wanted to read this book because I feel like there's a big shift going on in the medical field, in the healthcare field, and we are really getting into some pretty new territories. New in the conventional sense or mainstream sense, but not new in terms of uh, esoteric or traditional sense. Information has been around about health and stuff has been around for a long time. It's just that we've kind of moved away from all the wisdom, in my opinion. We've moved away from all the wisdom and traditions of the sages, of the ancient sages. So, but we're coming back to it. So this is pretty exciting. So that's kind of why I wanted to read this book in preparation for our understanding and our learning of what is to come. So if you like what we do here, please do consider checking out our book clubs, our other book clubs. We have our spiritual book clubs on Mondays and then financial book clubs on Thursdays. And we put all the books that we've read as well as the current ones on YouTube in a playlist. So you guys can download it and just listen to it when you're, jogging, walking your dog, doing laundry, multitasking, stuck in traffic, whatever it is that you're doing. And we also have other contents on there as well, not just the book clubs. So I do encourage you to check it out. Please like and subscribe and comment and all that good stuff. We love to hear from you. We love to hear what you think. Um, Share some of your knowledge. We do appreciate that very much. And also consider signing up for our free monthly newsletter as well. And if you want to support us further, you can buy me a coffee, leave a donation. Check out our merch. Also, we have many different designs for your fur babies, your doggies and kitties, and also for humans. So we're always updating our designs and uh, coming up with new ones. So please do come back often and check them out. And if you are in the Los Angeles area or visiting LA, please do come visit us in our healing center. We have a healing center that we use technologies based on Nikola Tesla's, the scientist I mentioned in the earlier, in the beginning of the video, based on his research on scalar wave research for holistic healing for both animals, domestic cats and dogs, as well as humans. So please do check out our website, read more about it, learn more about the technology, and as well as our other services. And we'd love to meet you, and we'd love to meet you in person. Okay, so let us start. This is chapter 4, and this will be part 4. So I hope you're enjoying this book. Let me know what you think about this book. It gets a little scientific once in a while, which kind of goes over my head because science isn't my strong suit. But those of you who are science nerds, if you want to call them that, um, I guess let me know what you think about his explanation and uh, his thoughts and stuff. So I love to hear from you. Okay, so Uh, Here we go. All right. A scientific model of frequency domains, the Tiller-Einstein model of positive-negative spacetime. Although Western scientists would offer the assumption that no mathematical models currently exist within electromagnetic theory to explain the existence of etheric and astral forms, there are certain pioneering researchers who have taken this matter to closer scrutiny. One such researcher is Dr. William Tiller, a professor at Stanford University and former chairman of the Department of Material Science at that institution. Over the last decade or more, Dr. Taylor has been working to apply currently existing scientific models to the explanation of certain subtle energetic phenomena without discarding the existing framework of science. The reason I call this the Tiller-Einstein model is because its insights are basic to the Einsteinian equation relating energy to matter from which it is derived. The most familiar form of this equation is E equals mc squared. However, this is not the entire expression. The shorter equation is modified by a proportionality constant known as the Einstein-Lorentz transformation. This transformational this transformational constant is the relativistic factor that describes how different parameters of measurement from time distortion to alteration of length, width, and mass will vary according to the velocity of the system being described. The true Einsteinian equation is illustrated in diagram 13. The classical interpretation of Einstein's famous equation is that the energy contained within a particle is equivalent to the product of its mass multiplied by the speed of light squared. This means that there is an incredible amount of potential energy stored within a tiny particle of matter. American nuclear physicists were the first to begin to understand how to utilize the revolutionary information attempts to release this potential equation. This potential, wait, I'm missing a line here. Uh, okay, let's try that again. Sentence again. American nuclear physicists were the first to begin to understand how to utilize the revolutionary information contained within this remarkable equation. The earliest successful attempts to release this potential resulted in the atomic bombs exploded at the end of World War II. The stored potential energy within a few teaspoons of uranium was all that was necessary to level the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A more complex understanding of Einstein's equation has evolved over time, which may begin to help scientists comprehend oops, the multidimensional nature of the universe. Einstein's equation suggests that matter and energy are interconvertible and interconnected. So that sentence is italicized by the author, so I'll read it again. Einstein's equation suggests that matter and energy are interconvertible and interconnected. Subatomic matter is actually a form of condensed particularized energy, i.e. a frozen mini energy field. The atomic bomb is merely one example which demonstrates how matter can be converted into energy. When one looks at the extended equation above, in which E equals mc squared is modified by the Einstein-Lorentz transformation, new insights into the dimensional aspects of matter, both gross and subtle, can be appreciated. If one accelerates a particle faster and faster until it approaches the speed of light, its kinetic energy increases exponentially as described by the equation. Kinetic energy equals half mv squared, which is half mass velocity squared, where v is equal to velocity. The visual expression of this relationship is displayed in diagram 4. Okay, so let's look at the diagrams here for a minute. And I'm going to move the camera out just a little so we could see the whole thing. Okay, so the diagram 13 is the Lorentz. Oh, okay, Christina, let's try it again. I'm gonna need a second cup of coffee. Diagram 13, Einstein-Lorentz transformation. So we have the E equals mc squared divided by 1 minus velocity squared divided by c squared, which is the speed of light. Excuse me. The square root of 1 minus velocity squared divided by speed of light squared. Okay. As v is moves towards, as the velocity moves toward the speed of light, and then the energy moves toward infinity. Interesting, eh? This is for you math geniuses and scientists out there. Okay, so this is diagram 14. I'm going to move the camera out just a little bit more here. Okay, so this is the relationship of energy to velocity. And we see a chart on the left-hand side is energy with an arrow going up. And then on the bottom is velocity with an arrow going from 0 to the speed of light. And then in the middle of the chart, we have the 0. We start from 0 and then we go all the way up to infinity. Speed of light and beyond, I guess you could say, right? Interesting. Okay, let us continue. Now move the camera in back a little bit. Oops, not too much. Okay. This diagram illustrates the exponential relationship between matter and energy at velocities approaching the speed of light. To those interpreting this relationship, it would seem that it is physically impossible to accelerate particles beyond the speed of light. The ascending curve approaches the speed of light, which is c, but never intersects with it, and continues off into infinity. For example, high-energy particle physicists are aware that as one tries to accelerate a subatomic particle faster and faster, closer to the speed of light, extremely large amounts of energy are needed. The reason for this strange phenomenon is that the relativistic mass of a particle increases exponentially at speeds approaching light velocity until the energy needed for further acceleration to c becomes tremendous. That is, of course, the energy necessary to accelerate a physical particle of matter. Up until now, most physicists have accepted the seeming limitation that one cannot accelerate matter beyond the speed of light. Just a side note, I'm wondering if scientists think that we cannot accelerate beyond the speed of light, I wonder if that applies to only this dimension, because in higher dimensions, you can go above the speed of, or more than the speed of light, I would think. So that means the speed of light only stops in the third dimension? I don't know. Interesting. It just kind of, the thought that just came to mind. So I wonder if like Star Trek, they talk about warp speed, if that would be crossing the higher dimensions. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I don't even know if I'm myself is making any sense. But anyways, leave your thoughts underneath. I'd be interested to, or leave your comments underneath in the bottom, whatever, comment below. I'd be interested to know. Okay, so sorry about that little squirrel there. All right, let's continue. This assumption is partly related to the fact that when one inserts numbers greater than the speed of light into the Einstein-Lorentz transformation, one arrives at solutions containing the square root of -1, which is considered an imaginary number. Since most physicists do not believe in imaginary numbers, they assume that the speed of light is the maximum velocity at which matter can travel. Okay. Certain pioneering mathematicians, such as Charles Muses, and there is an endnote for that at the end of the book, if you guys want to check that out, consider the square root of -1 to be one of a category of numbers referred to as hyper numbers. These hyper numbers, he believes, are necessary to the development of equations, which mathematically describe the behavior of higher dimensional phenomena, such as the subtle energetic interactions of living systems that we have been describing throughout this book. I guess the author is kind of saying what I was wondering, huh? I don't know. Interesting. Okay. Although at first glance, imaginary numbers like the square root of -1 might seem to be impossible to fathom, Muses points out that they are necessary to finding solutions in the equations of electromagnetic and quantum theory. It is perhaps appropriate that so-called imaginary numbers would play a key role in describing the higher dimensional phenomena that conservative scientists have long considered to be imaginary domains themselves. If we assume for a moment that solutions containing the square root of -1 may be valid in describing higher dimensional phenomena, then we are able to begin to understand the full predictive power inherent in the transformed Einsteinian equation. Diagram 15 is a plot of the energy of a particle relative to its velocity from a theoretical state of rest all the way up to and beyond the speed of light, which is c. A lengthier and more complex mathematical description of how this graph is derived can be found in the appendix at the end of the book. So here we have diagram 15, which is the positive-negative space-time model. And let me just move the camera out a little bit so you guys can see. And I really don't know how to describe it for those of you who are just listening. But I'll describe it the best I can. So you have a square, and the square is divided into 4 squares. So on the upper right corner, we have the physical positive physical positive space-time, and then the bottom bottom right corner of the square is the etheric negative space-time. So these are opposites of each other. So you got one going to the positive space-time goes up to infinity, and the negative space-time goes down to negative infinity. And then on the upper right corner is the energy aspect, which has an arrow going up. And then on the bottom left is the velocity, which goes from 0 to c, which is the speed of light. And it goes from left to right. I don't know. That's the best I can explain it. I think the author's going to explain it in the next paragraph. So let us continue. Okay, I'm going to move the camera in a little bit here. All right. At first glance, one will discover a graph similar to the one in diagram 14, except for one very important difference. In addition to the curve leading up to the speed of light, there is a second inverted mirror image curve on the opposite side of the line, denoting light velocity, which is c. Dr. Tiller refers to the domain just to the left of the speed of light boundary as positive. Okay, I'm gonna move the camera out a little. Sorry about that. I like it just right. That's my OCD. Okay. Refers, let's see, as positive space-time. Let me read that sentence again because it is separated. Okay. Dr. Tiller refers to the domain just to the left of the speed of light boundary as positive space-time, otherwise known as the physical space-time universe. As the model implies, positive space-time matter can exist only at velocities less than the speed of light. The inverted curve to the right of C traveling at velocities exceeding the speed of light describes the domain of negative spacetime, which is minus st. This world of negative spacetime and particles which move faster than light is an area not unfamiliar to modern physics. A number of physicists have proposed the existence of a particle known as a tachyon, which would theoretically exist only at speeds exceeding that of light velocity. And there is an endnote about that if you guys want to explore further. And just a side note about tachyon, I have heard of tachyon, usually in the context of healing technology. So if you guys are interested in learning more about it, leave a comment in the comment box, in the comment below. And I'll see if I can do some research and find a book that talks about it. And we'll study it together. That'll be fun. Okay. The properties of such unusual particles traveling at supraluminal, which is faster than light velocities, are quite interesting. So this next sentence is italicized by the author, so I'll read it twice. Whereas positive space-time matter is associated with the forces of electricity and electromagnetic EM radiation, negative space-time matter is associated primarily with magnetism and a force, which Tiller describes as magnetoelectric, which is ME radiation. Okay, I'll read that again. Whereas positive space-time matter is associated with the forces of electricity and electromagnetic, which is EM radiation, negative space-time matter is associated primarily with magnetism and a force, which Tiller describes as magnetoelectric, which is ME radiation. We know, for instance, that the particles which make up the physical atom are electrically charged as positive, negative, or neutral. Electromagnetic theory predicts that magnetic monopoles, particles magnetically charged either north or south, should exist in nature. No one has yet successfully captured or repeatedly detected magnetic monopoles. It is possible that if the domain of this particle is in tachyonic realms like those in Tiller's negative space-time model, then our present measuring equipment may be inadequate or insensitive to the task at hand. There are other interesting properties of negative space-time particles which have relevance to our discussion of subtle energies. Because all solutions to the Einstein-Lorentz transformation is supraluminal velocities are negative in character, then negative space-time particles would have negative mass. In addition, negative space-time matter would demonstrate the property of negative entropy. And that sentence is italicized by the author, so I'll read it again. Negative space-time matter would demonstrate the property of negative entropy. Entropy is a term which describes the tendency toward disorder of a system. The greater the entropy, the greater the disorder. In general, most systems within the physical universe tend toward increasing positive energy and more disorder over time, i.e., things tend to fall apart. The most notable exception to this entropic rule of the physical universe is found in the behavior of living systems. Biological systems take in raw material, like food, and organize these simple components into complex macromolecular structures, such as protein, DNA, collagen, etc. Living systems display the property of negative entropy, or a tendency toward decreasing disorder of the system. Okay, so that's italicized by the author. Now I will read that sentence again. Boy, he's got a lot of italicized sentences in this chapter. Okay. Living systems display the property of negative entropy, or a tendency toward decreasing disorder of the system. They take in substances which are broken down to elements which are less organized and then build them up into systems which are more organized. Living organisms take in raw material and energy and self-organize them into complex structural and physiologic subcomponents. One might say then that the life force seems to be associated with negative entropic characteristics. I'll read that again because the sentence is italicized by the author. One might say then that the life force seems to be associated with negative entropic characteristics. When a body dies and the life force vacates the physical form, the remaining unoccupied shell returns, via earthly microorganisms to its raw constituents in characteristic positive entropic fashion. The etheric body, a self-organizing holographic energy template, would also seem to demonstrate negative entropic properties. I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. The etheric body, a self-organizing holographic energy template, would also seem to demonstrate negative entropic properties. The etheric body supplies the spatial ordering properties to the cellular systems of the physical body. This negatively entropic characteristic of the subtle life energies and the etheric template would appear to satisfy at least one requirement of Tiller's negative space-time matter. In addition, negative space-time matter is primarily magnetic in nature. I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. Negative space-time matter is primarily magnetic in nature. In Bernard Grad's experiments on the effects of laying on of hands healing on living systems, it was discovered that the growth rate of plants could be accelerated by magnet-treated water as well as healer-treated water. A number of other similarities between magnet and healer-treated water have also been found. Research chemist Robert Miller found that copper sulfate dissolved in regular distilled water forms jade green monoclinic crystals when it precipitates out of solution. If the copper sulfate solution is exposed to the energies of a healer's hands or a strong magnetic field, it always forms coarser grained turquoise blue crystals instead of the characteristic jade green structures. And there is an endnote about that if you guys want to check that out. This may be a property of altered hydrogen bonding and subsequent changes in chemical coordination complexes. Studies by Dr. Justice Smith, and there's an endnote for that if you guys want to check that out, have shown that healers can accelerate the kinetic activity of enzymes in a fashion similar to the effects of high-intensity magnetic fields. I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. Healers can accelerate the kinetic activity of enzymes in a fashion similar to the effects of high-intensity magnetic fields. Dr. Smith measured the effects of the energies from healers' hands on test tubes of the enzyme trypsin. Smith asked a healer to concentrate on sending energy to an imaginary patient, a test tube of enzymes held in his hands. Experimental controls were introduced by having normal individuals also hold test tubes of enzymes in order to simulate the possible activating effects of the warmth of the hands. Utilizing standard spectrophotometric methods, she measured changes in the activity of small amounts of enzymes taken from the healer exposed and controlled test tubes over time. Previous work had shown that high-intensity magnetic fields could accelerate enzyme reaction rates. Only the healer's energies, as compared to controls, were found to accelerate enzyme reaction rates linearly over time. The experiment was varied, utilizing different enzymes. With one enzyme, the healer caused a decrease in enzymatic activity. In a third, there was no change. When the enzyme activity was decreased, NADAs, I don't know what that means, was looked at from a cellular metabolic perspective, it was found that the decreased activity in this enzyme would result in a greater energy reserve of the cell. The activity of the enzymes affected by the healers always seemed to be in a direction that was toward greater overall health and balanced metabolic activity of the organism. Now I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. The activity of the enzymes affected by the healers always seemed to be in a direction that was toward greater overall health and balanced metabolic activity of the organism. Dr. Smith tried another variation on the experiment. She exposed the enzyme trypsin to ultraviolet light, which is known to damage enzyme activity through protein denaturation, which is unfolding. High-intensity magnetic fields had been previously shown to restore the enzyme's activity. When the healer held the damaged enzymes, they were found to regain structural integrity and become active. After becoming activated, their enzymatic activity continued to increase linearly over time, depending on how long the healer held the test tube of damaged enzymes. Thus, the energetic fields of the healer's hands were able to repair ultraviolet damaged enzymes in a manner similar to that of magnetic fields. The energetic fields of healers fit Dr. Tiller's criteria for negative space-time substance or magnetoelectric energy in that they demonstrate certain qualitative similarities in magnetic fields, and they also have negative entropic properties, i.e. the ability to reassemble disordered molecules such as enzymes. Okay, so that sentence was italicized, so I'll read it again. The energetic fields of healers fit Dr. Tiller's criteria for negative space-time substance or magnetoelectric field, or electromagnetic, sorry about that. Okay. Let's do that again. The energetic fields of healers fit Dr. Tiller's criteria for negative space-time substance or magnetoelectric energy in that they demonstrate certain qualitative similarities to magnetic fields, and they also have negative entropic properties, i.e. the ability to reassemble disordered molecules such as enzymes. The experimental evidence from the aforementioned studies suggests that the energies of healers appear to be magnetic in nature. However, healers' fields demonstrate properties which are entirely different from what is known about conventional magnetic fields. Both healers' hands and magnets could accelerate the growth rate of plants and cause blue crystallization of copper sulfate. Additionally, magnetic fields and healers' hands could increase enzymes' reaction rates. Interestingly, early studies with magnetic detectors were unable to register any significant magnetic fields around the healer's hands. However, more recent research by Dr. John Zimmerman at the University of Colorado School of Medicine has added further evidence to suggest the magnetic nature of healing energy. Utilizing an ultra-sensitive magnetic field detector called a SQUID, superconducting quantum interference device, Dr. Zimmerman demonstrated significant increases in the intensity of the magnetic fields emitted by healers' hands. The increases, there's a end note about that if you want to continue, if you want to do a deep dive on it or further deep dive. The increases in magnetic field signals from healers' hands were up to several hundred times larger than background noise. However, these magnetic fields were at intensity levels far weaker than those required to produce enzyme effects in the laboratory. Dr. Justice Smith's experimental work with enzymes used magnetic fields of 13,000 Gauss, which are at least 26,000 times more powerful than the Earth's magnetic field. One would certainly expect to find fairly intense magnetic fields around healers' hands if they were palming off magnets to fake their experimental results. Additionally, healers' energies cause variable changes in the reaction rates of different enzymes, whereas magnetic fields could only cause a non-specific increase in activity. The direction of change in enzyme activity always seemed to mirror the natural cellular intelligence. And that sentence is italicized by the author, so I'll read it again. The direction of change in enzyme activity always seemed to mirror the natural cellular intelligence. So to me, that means each cell has its own higher intelligence, right? Uh, right. Okay. Also, healers were able to repair damaged enzymes similar to high intensity magnetic fields. The suggestion here is that the subtle life energies of healers seem to have primarily magnetic properties. And again, I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. The suggestion here is that the subtle life energies of healers seems to have primarily magnetic properties. This is quite a fascinating revelation when one considers that back in the time of Franz Anton Mesmer's experiments with healing in 18th century France, it was referred to as magnetic healing. Of course, no magnetic fields could be detected then, as now, with the exception of Dr. Zimmerman's recent work with squid detectors. The healer's energies differ from conventional magnetic fields in that they are not only qualitatively different in their effects, but also quantitatively different in that the magnetic fields associated with healers are exceedingly weak, yet they have powerful biological and chemical effects. The unusual magnetic nature of these subtle energies fulfills one of Tiller's major criteria for negative space-time substance. Dr. Tiller theorizes that negative spacetime is the domain of the etheric. A third substance called deltron has been hypothesized to act as an energy bonding coupler between the etheric and physical worlds. Tiller feels that the postulation of this deltron intermediary was necessary because there are no resonant vibrational modes possible between etheric and physical energies in view of the fact that there is no frequency overlap between positive and negative spacetime. This may not actually be the case because we know that there can be interactions between higher and lower octave energies, possibly through resonant harmonic effects, as in the case of photographing the phantom leaf effect. The important revelation is that we have a theoretical model of matter-energy relationships, which begins to give us a mathematical foothold on the physical universe, the physical etheric interface, and the world of etheric substance. What is most interesting about the entire positive-negative spacetime diagram is that this model is predicted by Einstein's relativistic equation. And I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. What is most interesting about the entire positive-negative space-time diagram is that this model is predicted by Einstein's relativistic equation. I would also suggest that the subtle world of astral matter lies within the domain of negative spacetime, vibrates at speeds faster than light, and has certain magnetic properties similar to etheric matter. Some of Dr. Tiller's more recent work considers the possibility that astral energies may operate at speeds between 10 to the 10 and 10 to the 20th times the speed of light. The Tiller-Einstein model has interesting significance in interpreting the behavior of etheric and astral matter. The astral domain has certain unique properties, one of which is the principle that astrally or emotionally charged thoughts have a life of their own. At the astral energetic level, certain thoughts, either conscious or unconscious, may exist as distinct energy fields or thought forms. And there's an endnote about that, with unique shapes, colors, and characteristics. Some thoughts, especially those that are charged with emotional intensity, can have a separate identity apart from their creator. Certain thoughts may actually be charged with subtle energetic substance and exist unconsciously as thought forms in the energetic fields of their creators. These thought forms can frequently be seen by clairvoyant individuals who are very sensitive to higher energetic phenomena. The fact that our consciousness can influence the energy fields of our subtle energetic anatomy has important implications for both medicine and psychology. So this next part is a direct quote in a paragraph form. So here we go. Quote, subtle matter, especially astral matter, is very magnetic. Movement at this level is relatively fluid compared to the dense physical plane. There are forms, but they are mercurial. They tend to pulsate, and movement can be in more than one direction at the same time. It is, after all, another dimension of existence and must be understood at its own terms. One of the discoveries that researchers in psychology and medicine will eventually make someday is that non-ferrous matter also has the magnetic properties which ferrous matter does. This includes the matter which goes into the substance of human thought and feeling. So I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. Matter also has the magnetic properties which ferrous matter does. This includes the matter which goes into the substance of human thought and feeling. It is not the type of magnetism which attracts iron filings, or of course, but it is most definitely a species of magnetism. It attracts other substances in harmony with it, as well as repelling matter which is not in harmony with it. Experimenters will eventually find that emotions must be dealt with both as highly magnetic non-physical matter as an aspect of consciousness. The difficulty in treating many emotional illnesses stems in part from the fact that the emotions which cause these problems tend to be magnetically responsive to a kind of astral matter which easily glues itself both to our own feelings and to more of its own kind. The magnetic action makes it very difficult to get rid of the bad astral matter and the emotional problem. Okay, so looks like the author italicized that last sentence, so I'll read it again. The difficulty in treating many emotional illnesses stems in part from the fact that the emotions which cause these problems tend to be magnetically responsive to a kind of astral matter, which easily glues itself both to our own feelings and to more of its own kind. Medicine is really at a stage where it needs to take a closer look at some of the remarkable results which have come from unorthodox methods, such as herbal medicine and homeopathy. Doctors need to learn more about the hidden side of life, the so-called invisible realms, and the subtle planes and grades of matter. There is a wealth of material about these subjects which can be investigated scientifically, such as the fact that small amounts of vegetable or mineral matter, the essences of flowers, or homeopathic remedies can have a powerful effect in treating human illness. Certain types of subtle physical or etheric matter seem to attract specific illnesses to the physical body. The right type of magnetism administered as an herbal or homeopathic treatment would be able to dispel or disperse the bad matter, leading to a cure. And I'll read that again because the author italicized that sentence. The right type of magnetism administered as an herbal or homeopathic treatment would be able to dispel or disperse the bad matter, leading to a cure. Indeed, there is a whole science of magnetism waiting to be discovered and applied to physical and psychological health. End quote. And there is an end note about that whole paragraph there. You guys can check it out. An inferred meaning within this statement is that both etheric and astral matter have higher dimensional or non-physical magnetic properties. If astral and etheric matter are composed of magnetic particles, then the ordered movement of such subtle particles along a linear path would constitute a magnetic current. Tiller refers to such energy flow as magneto-electric currents. From what is known about electricity, we find that an electrical current is accompanied by a magnetic field. Conversely, a magnetic current should generate an electrical field. It is possible, for instance, that the primary magnetic, astral, and etheric energies flowing through the chakras would create associated electrical field effects. I'll read that again because it's italicized by the author. It is possible, for instance, that the primarily magnetic, astral, and etheric energies flowing through the chakras would create associated electrical field effects. This would explain the experimental findings of electrostatic fields over the chakras as measured by Dr. Motoyama's chakra device, and possibly the oscillating electrical currents recorded from the skin at the level of the chakras as detected by Dr. Hunt at UCLA. The electrical fields measured by these different energy sensing systems constituted a secondary effect, not the primary subtle energetic phenomena, as was correctly intuited by Drs. Hunt and Motoyama. Another implication suggested by the aforementioned quote is that various subtle energetic therapies, such as homeopathic remedies, may work by delivering a quantum dose of magnetoelectric or subtle magnetic energy to patients in a way that is able to neutralize abnormal etheric or astromagnetic patterns within the subtle energetic anatomy of the patient. For instance, the Bach flower remedies have been used for many years in England and the United States to treat patients with various emotional difficulties. The vibrational actions of such subtle medicines as homeopathic remedies and flower essences can be highly effective in alleviating the emotional distress and dis-ease of many patients. However, since the energetic effects of such remedies may occur at the level of the negative space-time frame, i.e., at the level of our etheric and astral anatomy, the immediate physiological benefits would be difficult to directly measure with conventional medical testing. The positive-negative space-time model appears very useful in demonstrating that modern physics may already have within its grasp the mathematical tools available to begin to understand these subtle energetic phenomena. This multidimensional energetic understanding of Einsteinian medicine may ultimately change the way we view ourselves and the healing arts in the future. Okay, we will end there for now. And this is a pretty loaded section. So let me know what you think. Do you understand it? Do you get it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it over your head? I know the scientific part is kind of over my head because I'm not a science person. I'm more of a intuitive. I got it, the talk already. Okay, I think I should shut up and let you guys comment, and I'd love to hear from you. So I'll see you next time in our next book club, and hope you guys all have a great day, great afternoon, great evening, wherever you guys are, and we'll see you again. All right, bye-bye now.